Yo, what up? We got another book review. This time we're talking Queer by William S. Burroughs, which I love these covers, or these designs, these editions. That's the word I'm looking for. I'm not really sure what the cover design on this is, though. Probably something that's supposed to be grotesque, because he's kind of known for that. If you've read Naked Lunch, you know what I'm talking about. William S. Burroughs is one of the leading figures of the Beat generation. He was older than most of the other three, who are the main four, which is like Allen Ginsberg and Jack Kerouac and Ken Kesey. He's mainly known for Junkie, which is probably one of my favorite books about drug use. That's about him doing heroin in New York, I think. And that was like one of the first books I read that kind of got me into the Beat generation, or like literature kind of in general. I'm really fascinated with literature books that have to do with drugs, especially ones that talk about, altered states of consciousness and how that changes like narrative styles. It's been a while since I've got back to William S. Burroughs, because I read Junkie, and then quickly after that I read Naked Lunch, and then that was a little too much for me. It was just really grotesque and vulgar, and which it's meant to be, and it's probably the most vulgar book I've ever read, and I don't ever plan on getting back to that. And that was 5 years ago. My literature reading journey has been going on for about 5 years now, and since I've been reading stuff on my own. On my travels, I finally picked this up. I think it was somewhere around San Francisco. He was kind of run out of the US in the 1940s and had to be out of the US for 5 years. He did something illegal. I don't know. I think it might have even had to do with murder, or drug use or homosexuality, something like that. But he had to leave the US for 5 years, and so he went down to Mexico City, traveled around the South American countries. He was a real smart guy. He went to Harvard and got taken over by his addictive personality. Once I finish this, I don't really like to look into the books I'm reading until after I finish them, just to get my own opinion on it. And I knew I was kind of missing something with this one, because I didn't really enjoy it that much. I didn't really like it until the end, really, like the last 20 or 30 pages. And this is only 130 pages, and it's pretty spaced out, and every chapter it skips like a page or so. It's even less than that, but it wasn't until the last 20 or 30 pages that I really started to get it and like enjoy it and kind of understand what was going on. And then after I finished it, I saw a lot of things about people pairing this with Junkie, saying they're kind of meant to be read together, and which made a lot more sense, because you start seeing his like homosexual desires kind of the same way as he sees like using heroin and being a junkie and just like needing a fix and just like kind of being controlled by his own desires and not being able to go without. The main character, Lee, which is pretty much William S. Burroughs. I don't know how much of this is true, but I could see, most of it, or if not all of it, being true, or being himself, or his own experiences. He's obsessed with this guy named Allerton. That's his last name, I think. Eugene Allerton, but they call him Allerton the whole time. He's kind of on the fence of being homosexual. Like, he doesn't really want to admit it to himself. He's probably bisexual, he has a girlfriend, but kind of has a thing with Lee as well. And he doesn't really want, anyone to know that he has homosexual tendencies or anything like that. And Lee is, pretty unapologetic about it. And that's why he likes Mexico a lot more, is because no one really cares if you're homosexual or not. Everyone kind of keeps to themselves. It's not like America, where he gets judged all the time. And he's always going to this gay bar called Ship Ahoy. Mainly about him hanging out at this bar and discussing just like the social aspect of it. And no one really likes Lee, like just as a person. They don't really care that he's homosexual, but he's just not a very good person. And he's manipulative. He's really obsessed about getting what he wants, and what he wants a lot of the times is just like people that like him, and he's always like around, and people can't really shake him, and so he kind of becomes a social outcast, and everyone's kind of annoyed with him. And so it's mainly about just like seeing his sexual urges as sort of like a drug, and being addicted to it once he finally gets it, and just kind of being controlled by his own desires and urges, which made a lot more sense. Honestly, my favorite part of the book was towards the end. It's just a little short section that doesn't run the story. They just go and try to find some ayahuasca or some yage, which, you know, like I said, I'm super into literature that talks about drugs at all, and so I wasn't really expecting this to go into like drug use much at all, especially ayahuasca. But he even talks about him being like addicted to heroin in this one as well. So you definitely see the ties, and this could, I don't remember what the main character's name is in Junkie, but it might be Lee. But this wasn't published when it was first written. It took a long time for it to be published, especially in its entirety, because of the homosexual content that wasn't accepted at the time. I think it was like fully published until 1985. I gave it a 3 out of 5 stars. It was okay. There's parts of it that I liked. There's parts of it I didn't like. Wasn't my favorite. Definitely an interesting read and an interesting point in time, especially about the Beat Generation, about William S. Burroughs before the Beat Generation kind of came around. He's just super unapologetic, even though he holds a lot of new ideals for that time. It is kind of outdated because of the time it was written in and his own ideals when it comes to, you know, cultures and races, but definitely interesting. So it's not a perfect book if you're interested in the Beat Generation or William S. Burroughs or, you know, LGBTQ plus literature. If you like this type of stuff, check it out, and thanks for sticking with me. Peace.